So, Chris, you are here, of course, other than the shoe fitting. You were here to talk about your Boston Celtics.
Yes.
You were surprised, I take it, by the maybe not by the result, but the way that the result was gotten and given.
Yeah, usually when it ends, it usually ends badly, right? And I think we saw it yesterday, too, with the way Oklahoma City and Denver played out. That was a close game till right before halftime, and Celtics were more competitive for a quarter, but you could just tell didn't have it. Everything good the role players did in Game 5 fizzled in Game 6. That building had some energy in it. Look, I'd like to take more credit away from the Knicks as possible because the fan base is insufferable, but they earned it. They had 2 comebacks to take control of that series. Celtics had their part in it, but give them credit. They played way better than I thought they would. The talent that they have when it's clicking.
How much of it was coaching? Like, did Thibodeau outcoach Missoula, in your opinion?
I think it's fair to say when you lose a series, you get outcoached. I don't think we don't need to have a whole referendum on Joe and whether he should be here long term or whatever. But I do think Joe didn't push enough of the right buttons in terms of getting the guys to collect themselves at the end of games and when leads were going away. And I put a lot of that on the players because I keep saying it, like this is the third coach that hasn't been able to shake them from that bad habit. So I don't want it to fall solely on the coach. I think part of the changes you'll see this offseason will revolve around like maybe fixing some of what ailed them. And but no, I think it's we're heading towards a weird time, and Joe's gonna have to figure out how to navigate that.
Right. Because Jared Weiss opined that maybe that the style of the NBA has caught up to Joe Missoula. That these things go in like 3-year cycles, and that Missoula was on the vanguard, and now the league is kind of caught up to it, so he's going to have to kind of change what he's doing.
I mean, if the Celtics were healthy, I still think they're in the mix. And this series did not come down to health. They lost before health, but I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel with the way they play. I think there will be some tweaks to fix little areas that ail them, and I think we all know what they are in terms of just being a little bit more mentally strong in tough moments and scoring around the basket. But what do you got, Wally?
Well, I was going to say the shots were. I think you should put more blame on the players than Missoula. Yes, Missoula ball is very frustrating. You get guys that are wide open for layups that kick out for open threes instead of dunking the basketball. But how many open shots did they miss?
How many open layups did they miss?
My point exactly. That's just it. The shots were there. The offense worked. And the players never executed.
Yeah,
End of games, you have a clear argument against Joe Missoula, but the bulk of it should fall on the players.
But that's the thing, is that if you use a one-game litmus, that's a fair thing. And an argument that I made too is that I think it was game 2 that we said, or it was a game 2 probably, where they just missed so many threes or something like that.
Game 1 was the 3 misses.
Okay, game 1 was the one where they just missed all those open threes. But when it's over the course of a series and that's your style of play and it's not working, then that's an indictment on the system. Like if you have guys that you're putting them in positions that you think they should succeed in, but they're incapable of doing so, you lose 4 games to an inferior team. Yeah. That's a fair. It's fair to say that he did not structure things properly for the team.
I get that argument, but the guys that were missing shots usually made shots from the spot they missed them from. That's the thing that frustrated me most of all. Drew Holiday, who was one of the best corner three-point shooters in the world, kept missing corner threes. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown were missing wide-open shots from the wings, where Derek White, especially in the first couple of games.
Even game 6, like what? I think
in game 6 as well, sure. Before it didn't matter.
You could tell he didn't have it. And it's like, ugh. I will say this is the second time in 3 years where some confluence of injuries and ill-timed shooting slump spelled your demise. And so that same sort of pattern played itself out against the Heat. And so you do have to kind of look at, why has this pattern repeated itself? And they were so good at last year and avoided it and never had those lulls and shot the ball well through the postseason, generated the right offense, played the right way. They got to find out what went wrong what sandwiched that really good year. And again, now with probably different personnel.
Okay, so there was a lot of talk on Friday about the Celtics and whether or not, if they were to win Game 6 on Friday night, what that vibe would be like and what you would like for their chances in a Game 7.
Game 7s are weird.
Game 7s are weird, especially when you have momentum, as the Celtics have had in the past, and they would have had going into this series. And that's why I get it. Just from like the surface, you figure back in Boston, Game 7 at home, I had no such confidence.
Yeah,
and
Look at 2 years ago against Miami.
Right.
that's the one. That's the thing that I keep falling back on, where they pulled the no-show. Now, I would say, count yourself lucky that the no-show happened in Game 6, and you don't get your heart broken, on home court in Game 7.
I would have liked the game tonight. I would have taken the chances. I would have said I would be interested to see how New York would have responded in that moment, where. Okay, boy, a 3-1 collapse after the way they were up would have been tough, and losing Game 6 at home would have put them in a tight spot. But no sense.
You think you would have felt better about it had they forced a Game 7 and lost at home tonight?
I mean, look, it's going to hurt no matter what. Might as well get a Game 7 out of it.
I think you're ridiculous. I think you're lying
I am
to
a
yourself.
ridiculous person. So.
Well, I mean, the pressure obviously was solely on the Knicks, as opined before this Game 6. And also, we just got out of the Luke Cornett game, which will Game 5 of that series will be forever remembered as the Luke Cornett game.
How do we feel about him being your starting center next year?
I'm all in. I just don't know if they can afford him, which is crazy to say, but he's a free agent.
You're all in on Cornett being the starting center for a championship team?
Are they a championship team next year?
No. But that's how you want to go into a season, is at least assuming, that you're a champion.
Well, first
that you
off,
have
I
a
think
shot.
Cornett is criminally underrated. I think he showed. I know he has his limitations, and he did not have a good Game 6, but I think if you were forced to put him into a more robust role next season, it would not be the worst thing. And you could figure out where exactly he slots long term. He came back on a minimum. He had other offers. He could have gone somewhere else. He likes it here. He likes what he's evolved into. And I hope they figure out a way to get some money to bring him back. But
Will you always remember Game 5 as the Luke Cornett game of the 2025
Fred,
playoffs?
I'm sad you didn't watch our interview from before Game 6, because Luke even said that would not be the Luke Cornett game, because it has to be it has to.
What will forever be remembered as the Luke Cornett game.
Well,
I stand corrected.
I said, I didn't. Yeah, I'm not making it up. There's a reason I'm saying it. No, I thought it was patronizing to Luke Cornett to go like, oh, the Luke Cornett game. I'm like, the guy's 7 feet tall. Like, he had some blocks. Like, he's a professional basketball player. I'm sure he would tell you, yes, I'm here to be tall and block shots and guard the rim.
Luke around and find out.
Yeah. My thing is, with the NBA playoffs, there seems to be this like myth making and this like storytelling that needs to be done before every game, as if there are all these outside influences and creating a narrative of the series. It's so annoying.
There are small exceptions. We talked about this, like the Kelly Olynyk game in the second round 2 years ago. That was a Game 7, though.
That was a Grant Williams game where he hit all the threes against Milwaukee.
Okay, yes, but Game 5,
Game 7.
But a Game 5 to get a series to 3-2 is never going to be remembered as the anything game.
Let us have our fun.
There's the flu game, but that's Michael Jordan,
and that's in the NBA Finals.
Yes. These are things that. Like, I just don't.
Food poisoning for Jordan.
I just don't understand. Well, they call it the flu game.
Yeah.
But maybe it was he'd been poisoned by his people he owed money to. Who knows? What is the future of Tatum, or what are you hearing? He's gone, certainly, because there's this pipe dream that he would be back for the playoffs next year. Right. How realistic is that?
I think if you look at the recent history and the way they treaded cautiously with Kevin Durant and put him in the best position to come back, that you give him the 18 months, and I'm not sure there'll be a reason to rush him. Maybe some of that is changed depending on how next season goes and what the roster looks like. But I suspect in my mind, I don't understand why you would rush him back. And so I hope they give him the time to be the best version of himself.
Brad Stevens has never been shy about shaking things up. Will he trade Jaylen Brown this offseason?
I mean, it's something you have to consider. It's just the reality of where the roster is. I think, I'm one of Jaylen's biggest supporters, and I think I'd like to see it through, and I'd love to see the Jays reunited in 2 years or a year and a half, whatever the case may be. But the reality is you have to trim money, and Porzingis' value is maybe a little bit low right now after coming off of what he went through. Drew Holiday has a lot of money left. 3 years and $104 million of that contract still on it. And so trying to find deals that allow you to move them and get back talent and trim salary is going to be difficult. So I just think you have to look at all options. I don't think it's like, if I had to guess, it's not option A, but it has to be an option, and it's just what they're going to have to explore. And I'll be interested. Like, Brad's going to talk this afternoon, and sometimes he can just put those things out and say, hey, look, we're not trading Jalen, and I don't know if he'll go that strong. I think you have to leave open.
You can't go that strong.
All avenues. Yeah, like you don't want to put yourself in a position where then you do have to make that move, and then you look back. But I do think there's options ahead of that they would prefer to do in order to kind of move this thing forward. And look, if Jalen, whatever happens with this meniscus, and he could be super important. I keep telling you guys, if it comes to pass where it's like it's Jalen's team next year, that in a way is intriguing to me to see where he goes and how he develops. He's always kind of gone and gotten better. And I think that could set you up nicely for when Tatum's back, and people will invariably say, "Oh, well, that now you got to share the basketball again." Yeah, like they'll figure that part out.
You figure that out,
right?
Yeah.
But you just the idea is like if you truly believe that Jalen is a top 20 player in the NBA, and he's looked like it a lot of the time over the past 2 seasons when he's been healthy, and then like there's no reason to get like irrational this offseason. But again, you have to trim money, and that's just a reality.
We were debating Derek White last week on this show.
No.
I fall in the same category as you do. I don't think you trade that guy. He does so many little things for you. He's a great defensive player, a great shot blocker for a guy his size, and offensively, he really provides a good service from deep.
The counter argument, of course, is that he's your most valuable asset. That the contract, coupled with the age and everything else, makes him your most valuable tradable asset, and that's undeniable. But I just. What are you looking for going into this offseason? You're probably looking for the next Derek White, the guy that you're really high on. You think he just needs a different situation. He's not making a ton of money quite yet, and maybe you're going to be on the hook for that down the road. But you're looking for more Derek Whites this offseason. And because when I go back and watch when they traded for him, I think those of us that watched him every night, well, maybe not every night, but watched him, knew that there was potential in there. I don't think any of us knew he would be this good. But you're looking for guys with high upside that fit well, and the other part of it is Tatum really loves them, and I do think that there's a value in that, right? You want guys that your stars want to be around, and this core loves each other, and it's unfortunate that some pieces are going to have to go, but I think there's a spot for Derek to see this through.
Okay, so a wrinkle here with the Jaylen Brown injury, because I thought it was ridiculous the more I thought about it, more ridiculous it became to think about trading him away, because really don't know what Tatum's status is going to be, when he's going to come back, how he's going to be when he comes back, and to just build a team over the next year for Jason Tatum to come back to seems foolish when you have Jaylen Brown readily available, can play. The torn meniscus changes things a little bit. What are you hearing in terms of is surgery a likely option, and what would be his timeline? Yeah,
so first off, I think it's commendable that he wanted to be out there. I think again, everyone kind of knew that this window was short, and there was everyone played through a little bit of something, from Kristaps with this mystery illness, which is still super weird, to Drew having a little bit of a hamstring issue through the early portion of this playoffs, and certainly Jalen navigating what was essentially the last month or two with the torn meniscus. Look, there's a couple different options if they just stitch it back together. I always say this is the Rob Williams surgery, where it's 4 to 6 weeks and you're back playing, and the more time you have, the better the little stitch together it gets. If they need to go in there and remove a section, it's longer. It's a more daunting recovery, and but maybe I would assume the balance this week is going to be what gets him feeling the best and makes this a non-issue long term, because you have the luxury of you maybe don't need him straight out of the gates next season. And if next year is going to be a little bit of a roller coaster, just figuring stuff out, maybe it's better to just do the surgery that makes the most sense for him. But the idea of not going into next season with both your Jays is daunting, especially for a new owner who's needs to keep a product on the court that people want to see. And
do you share the analysis of Dan Roach, who said when the news came out about Jaylen Brown, "We knew it had to something serious!" ! Jaylen Brown at FCHWPO has that hockey player mentality and toughness! Exclamation point.
Have
A
some sympathy. The guy was obviously wasted.
A grinder! Exclamation point.
This is
an
ambient
actual,
Roach.
That's an actual tweet from Dan Roach on Saturday.
Oh, look at you, Hardy. No compassion for the man. Listen, he had a rough night.
Yeah.
He got all worked up about something, and he just had to fire it out. That's the danger of the times we live in. We've all done it.
We knew it had to something serious. Jaylen Brown has that hockey player mentality and toughness. A grinder.
Poor Roachy. The man's just trying to provide some analysis. Jumping down his throat.
Well, listen.
It's the three exclamation
It was late at night.
Yeah,
He was wasted.
I will quibble with the exclamation points, but otherwise, I think his point is valid.
Spot on.
Okay.
All right. So, what are the if you ran the Celtics, and obviously, I'm not even going to debate not getting under that apron, which I don't think you would either.
Nope.
That's going to happen, and it has to. And if you own the team, listener, or anyone in this room, you would get under that apron too.
If they had won, I would think there were serious conversations about you've got to keep as many parts of this core together.
Yeah, as many parts
now,
as you.
calculus has changed.
Yeah, I still don't think that they would have paid $500 million for 1 year of basketball. Like an eighth of the value of your overpriced team as it is. I don't think that you're going to really get into that, or a 12th of the value, or whatever the hell it is. But it's real money. I mean, $500,000 is $500,000. I don't care who it is. I mean, that's how much the jet that the Saudis or whoever gave, Trump, and that's a huge deal. Let alone 1 year of the NBA. That's Air Force One money. So if you were running the team, and you don't have to get into specifics of who you would acquire, but what would it look like next season? You don't have to give specific names of players that aren't currently on the roster.
Again, I don't think there's a harm in that. I think they understand.
Well, I'm not asking you because I think it would hurt your credibility. I don't want to get in the weeds with like role players that they would bring in.
Right. And when I would invariably mention Rob Williams, and you'd be mad. So I
that would infuriate me. I would be fit to be tied if you did such a thing.
I would say that you were looking to get younger. You were probably looking to get more athletic. And so I think there will be a value on, versatility, size is always, like every team wants size, right? And certainly with the concerns about the front line, if you're not sure if you're bringing back Luke Cornett, if Al Horford has some decisions about his own future, they don't really have anyone on the roster besides, Porzingis, and I guess Nemi could be back too.
Porzingis, there's no way he's back, right?
I do think there is a chance. As an expiring deal, it's easier to create a pathway to being under the cap again in 2 seasons when this thing kind of starts going in the other way. If his money is coming off the books and you don't have to attach an asset and maybe preserve some draft capital. I just also think he needs to reestablish his value. And now he told us the other night that he wants to play in EuroLeague. And normally I would be like, I don't love the idea of a guy who battled some sort of ailment going and playing over the summer.
No, this is perfect.
Right.
If he goes and kicks ass over there, then you can trade him before the season starts.
Well, and it's sad as that is to say, like if nothing else, you need to know where he's at. Is he able to kind of get past this whatever's bugging him? And so I'm excited that he's actually playing because I just think they need to see it. And maybe once he's reestablished his value, you can consider that. And which is I hate talking that way about players because like Porzingis is genuinely the nicest dude we've had around here, and I've thoroughly enjoyed having him around. And I think when he's healthy, it's such a good fit for this team. But undeniably, if you can't stay on the court, and there's questions that remain.
I think it's safe to say, Chris, that if a player on a professional franchise was listening to you and they were realizing the economic realities of the situation,
I think they're all
you
aware.
proposed that they might be someone who was moved. They would not take that as a personal shot.
I don't think they do.
I really don't think they would.
I think they understand the reality. I think
right.
when they signed on 2 years ago, Brad was very open and honest about how this was going to work and the realities of the window. And hey, the rent's coming due now for that title, and it's time to figure out what's next.
And I know you guys talked about it, but I mean, you have 2 teams picking at 2 and 3 that could be looking to trade out of those picks. So it could be interesting if they wanted it to be. It could be interesting.
If you like that clip, check out more videos from Toucher and Hardy here. For more Celtics analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. And for all the latest from the Sports Hub, download the app at 985thesportshub.com.